Hello. Welcome. This is Taiwanda Bason, your border breaking specialist, here with stories I haven't shared yet. I'm so excited to be here the first time doing this particular series live, and thank you guys for joining me to get the tea today. Wherever you are in the world, feel free to jot it down in the comment section and let me know where you are tuning in from, or you may be catching the replay. And I hope that you are having a lovely day wherever you are in the world, or night. So, again, thank you guys for joining me today for stories I haven't shared yet. And again, this is Taiwanda Basin, your border breaking specialist. Okay. I want to remind you that if you have any questions or comments, I'm going to show that for you too on the screen. Make sure you jot those down in the chat area. Okay. And hey, maybe I will invite you to join me online as well on the screen to share your comments or your thoughts with us. So let me put that here for you. Yes, remember to share, to let others know that we're here as well, so they can join in on this particular broadcast today from my series stories I haven't shared yet. And you may have seen some that I've had from the past, but those were all recorded. And today I thought, hey, why not do something different and go live with the story so you guys can join in and you can share or make comments or ask questions about the stories that I share. And I may do this for others in the future as well. We'll see how this goes today. But yes, remember, if you have any questions or you have any comments, go ahead and jot those down in the comment section. So there it is. You should see it going across the screen to remind you. And again, share to let others know that we're here. Again, this is Taiwanda Basin, your border breaking specialist. And today we are going to be talking about rolling up on a KKK meeting. Yes, that happened to me once. For those of you who may be joining me from other countries, and hey, maybe even some people in the USA, maybe you don't even know what the KKK is. But KKK stands for Ku Klux Klan. Okay, Ku Klux Klan. And that is basically a hate organization, although they set themselves up as saying they are like a Christian-based organization, but no. Christian comes from Christ, Jesus Christ, and what they stand for is nothing like Christ at all. Okay. Hi, Sherry from Sherry's World. Thank you for joining me today. And all of those who are joining as well, whether you're viewing or you make comments or anything, I appreciate you joining and watching whatever it is you're contributing. I thank you for it. But yeah, rolling up on a KKK meeting. So I guess I'll go ahead and get started with the story to share for you. And remember, go ahead if you have any questions or comments, jot those down in the chat. And I will be posting some of your comments for others to see. And you may get a chance to come on screen if you want to share something, share your thoughts, or ask your questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the music off as I get ready to share the story with you. All right. So I decided to share this particular story in light of some of the things that have been going on in the USA. And in fact, it's almost become like an issue globally as people are sharing their support. And many of you may have heard about the recent death of George Floyd. Uh, Basically, it was a murder from the police in Minnesota, and it happened. I think it was about maybe about 2 weeks ago now. But anyway, people are still upset. People are reeling from this, and it's not only George Floyd, but just a string of violent murders and brutality from police and then citizens who have also done things as well against people who are Black or African American in the USA. So that's kind of are part of the reason why I want to share this particular story. I've shared it with people, somewhat over the years, but not like I've like broadcasted. And there are probably people in my family who've never even heard this because a lot of times there are things that I only share when I feel like it's relevant. And a lot of times I have experiences, lots of experiences, whether they've been in the USA or like abroad, and I don't always feel the need to mention it, but albeit I remember. But when something comes up or situations happen that I feel like, this would be a good moment for me to share this particular experience, then I do when I feel like it's going to be beneficial. And usually it comes to my mind in those particular situations, whatever it is that I bring up. So this particular experience, as well as some others, came to my mind um, in the midst of all of this. And it come to my mind. It's always been something with me again, but not at the forefront of everything. And I know that a lot of people, especially in the USA, are probably like, "What? A KKK meeting?" And that was kind of how we were the day when it happened. And just to give you guys a background about me, just in case you don't know, I am from the deep South, okay, the deep South in the USA. My state is Alabama. That's where I was born and raised most of my life. But I've also lived in other places and traveled to other places within the USA before I even started traveling abroad. But for some of you who may be watching who are not from the USA, or you may be in the USA and you just may be oblivious to it. I mean, it is totally possible for people to have totally different upbringings and experiences in life, and it almost depends on the people that you are around and that you come in contact with. That's anywhere in the world, that kind of shapes your experiences and your view of the world. So growing up in the deep South is almost synonymous with racism, discrimination, prejudice, and pretty much the South. If you divide the U.S. into North and South, the South was the half that was like trying to cling on to slavery. If that gives you an idea of anything, that was pretty much how the Civil War like came about. Was basically to fight over that, like to be able to keep slaves, do the work for them. And so that's where I grew up. Okay, now it's inevitable unless you are somewhere where you're like totally sheltered or you're not around like people or you just in like again like you could be in one little area where it's just you and those people and you're away from diversity. I guess there are certain things that you may not see, so it could be possible that there's someone who may have never experienced racism prejudice or discrimination. But for the majority of Black or African Americans, especially living in the South, at some point in your life, you've at least experienced one time some form of racism, prejudice, or discrimination. And whether you know it or not, because it could be done covertly meaning hidden, where the person who is doing it is not making it outright to let you know that that's what they're doing, because maybe they're afraid of consequences or many different things. So those type of things with racism, prejudice, and discrimination can be either done overtly, which means outright, and they want you to know and they want everybody else to know that this is what it is. And then other times it can be done covertly, hidden. And so I can tell you, I've experienced all, and it's not only in the USA as well. You'll get some things like abroad, that happen because people are people, and there are issues as well, not only just because of the USA or I'm from the USA, but there are actually issues in other countries when it comes to racism, prejudice, and discrimination against people, and the whole thing about police brutality as well in some other countries too. But again, today, the story that I'm going to share with you that I haven't shared yet, not like this, to record it on video and for lots of people to hear about it, is rolling up on the KKK, okay, while they were having a meeting. And again, at any time you have any questions or comments, jot those down in the chat section. And I'll try to get to those as I'm going. So again, my background is I am from the Deep South, my home state, Alabama, a city to be exact, Mobile, Alabama. And so for university, I went to Alabama A&M University, which is still in Alabama. And I had a friend. Okay, so I'm trying to get to to how this all began. So I had a friend, really cool. He wasn't actually from Alabama. You know what? I want to say he was from, I don't know. I could be wrong. I want to say Ohio, but he may not have been from Ohio. All right, I think Chicago. I think it may have been Chicago, Illinois. So he was like real cool, and he knew I liked animals. Okay, I used to love like looking at the little animals and everything, just looking at them. Okay, just looking at them now. And so he knew that, and his roommate, which I knew his roommate as well. He knew that his roommate had a farm. His family to be exact, had a farm where they lived, and they were actually from Alabama. And so because he knew that I like animals, and he knew his friend had a farm, he told me about his friend, and then he also told his friend about me and asked him if I could, go home with him, because he was going to be, going to visit his hometown like over the weekend. And so I was like, yeah, of course. And his friend was like, yeah, you want to come? You can go ahead and come. And so let me tell you, his hometown is called Clanton, Clanton, Alabama. Now, I didn't think nothing of it because Clanton is spelled with a C, all right? Clanton wasn't thinking anything of that. He's from there. But anyway, we set off for the weekend to go to his hometown. And we get there. I think it was like a nighttime or evening time, like on Friday when we got there. It was kind of late, so we like got ready and everything. To just pretty much call it a night once we got there, like after the drive. And so the next morning was Saturday morning, and he needed to go to the bank. So we were like searching for a bank, and took his truck. We're riding through the downtown area. And just let me also tell you, okay, so Mobile, which is my city, is considered the second largest city in Alabama. And I'm like, yeah, we're the second largest, but in comparison to like some other cities like LA and Miami, we're like tiny. Okay. So Mobile itself being the second largest, if it's tiny, his hometown was kind of small, as well. And so the downtown area, like my downtown area, it seems like you're going around, but even to me, it feels small, like going, when I go back home and everything. So just imagine like their downtown area just seems super small. So we were searching for the bank, and I hope you guys can hear me. Let me know if you cannot hear. First of all, let me check to make sure I can hear. Seems like you're going around, but even to me. Okay, good, good. So I can hear. No mishap there with the audio. But yeah, so we're riding like in his truck, like in search of the bank, just kind of like going down the streets. And again, it's really small. But anyway, we went down this one street, and then we see the orange cones. Okay, the orange cones that people usually put out, like if there is like something going on, there could be an accident, or thank you for letting me know you can hear, Sister Cheryl. But yeah, or some, and for us, especially like at the university, usually when things were going south, kind of bad, the university kids were acting up. The police or campus police will put up like the cones, and then they'll put up like the yellow tape to let people know you don't need to be in this area. Move up, move along, move along. So when we saw the orange cones, we knew something was up, and we're just kind of like curious. We didn't think anything, of it or anything. So we're like, wonder what's going on here. So, and actually, he was kind of like me. I'm always like, what's going on? Just kind of, looking and, being curious. So, driving down the street as we got closer, and we finally got up to the cones. Well, because we couldn't go past the cones, but we got up to the cones. We saw why those cones were there and why the tape was up to block off that part of the street. It's because the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, was having a meeting there. And just in case you guys don't know what the KKK stands for, the Ku Klux Klan, especially for those of you that may be from another country, it's like a hate organization. Again, it's a hate organization, and basically they don't like anybody unless they're like them. And here, okay, it's a majority Caucasian or white membership. Okay, to be in the Ku Klux Klan. All right, it's not all people, but to be a member, the majority of them are white, Caucasian. Now there's some others, we won't get into that are a part of it, but the majority again, and the founding of the organization as a Caucasian or white based organization. And how you know them as far as like symbolism, how we knew it was the Ku Klux Klan was that they were in their costumes. Yeah, they had on their costumes. And if you don't know what they're I think most people in the USA would know what those costumes are like, but let me give an idea for those of you who are not from the USA. So we basically call them chiefs, okay, almost like dressed up like Casper the Ghost. All right, so they have on like a long white robe. That's for like the regular members. So they wear a long white robe, and then they have a mask on. Okay, that mask is cone shaped. All right, a large cone shaped mask with cutouts for their eyes. Okay, so that is the regular membership costume. I call it a costume, okay? And then the leader because the meeting was actually in progress, the leader who we saw had on all red, like one of the top leaders, because they have other colors as well. So he had on a red one. So he had on a pure red costume. So his robe was long and red. And then he had on his mask too with the cutouts. And his mask was red. So they were actually having their meeting. And get this. Yep, down that street where the cones were with the yellow tape blocking it off was the courthouse. So they were having a meeting on the courthouse steps, and it was already planned. It was an approved meeting by their local government, okay, for them to have their meeting, which is why they had the cones there to block it off. And now you guys think about it. This is an organization that hates pretty much anybody who's not like them, who's not Caucasian or white. Okay, and we're black, and black people are actually like the um, the major group that they hate, but they hate the rest too. But really, that's how the KKK got started, was for their hatred of black or African American people. And throughout throughout their existence, the existence of the KKK in the USA. Let's get this straight. It's just a group of people. So before the KKK existed, there were also people who hated black people and other people. It's just they decided to form a group, okay? But throughout their existence, they performed like major atrocities against black people, from lynchings, murders, all kinds of horrible things that they did. And this is known in the USA. This is actually like a part of our, history. Like, we get a small section or segment of it in our history classes. At least I remember that, just a very tiny splice of it in our history classes. But that was my first time ever seeing anything with my own two eyes, seeing the KKK in their garb, in their costumes. Up until that point, it was only what I had learned, in history class, or seen in the movies or on TV, and what others told me, like my grandma and other people, about things that happened, things that I learned about. Up until then, it was like you knew about it, but it wasn't something that you like saw necessarily, like every day. And so therefore, when you don't see something like that, you're hearing about it, you're watching movies about what happened in the past, people telling you about what happened in the past. And because we're supposed to have such a free society. That's why everybody wants to come to America, and everybody thinks that America is perfect. Okay. And then we have the civil rights movement and so many other things. And knowing that this particular organization, their whole ideal is based on hatred of those who are not like them, and the fact that there are documented cases of their violence and hate crimes against Black and African American people. The fact that they were still a viable organization that can put in a request to the government, local government, to have a public meeting on the courthouse steps. A courthouse which is supposed to be for justice and equality and for the people. And they're like, yeah, you're a hate group. We're going to go ahead and give you permission to do that. That was very, I guess, like, shocking to know that could actually happen. They were approved. It's not like they got out there and like, hey, we're going to go have our meeting. No, they got pre-approval for that. Okay, so that kind of just goes to show you maybe what, I don't know, the leadership or those who have the right to approve that say in their particular city, to allow them to do that in their garb, knowing what that symbolizes. And again, up until then, I had only heard about it and seen and learned a little bit about it, but to see it before my eyes was like something else. And I also want you to know, I was not scared, and I don't think my friend was scared either. But I was not scared at all. It was just more so like thinking like, okay. But we didn't rest there too long. He was like, oh, okay, guess we better go along. You know, we weren't trying to go and break anything up or anything, but the fact that we actually saw that was something, again, we weren't expecting. But you know what? While I was thinking about that, like, oh my goodness, I see them like they're really here. They're people who are part of this organization. It's not just in the history books. It's not just in the movies. It's not just what people told us. This is an organization that is still thriving. Okay, thriving at that point, because I was in undergrad. But the thing that came to my mind, something else, was that, like, oh my goodness, yes, I see them in the costumes, but immediately it went to another place. I started thinking and said to myself, you know, those they have those costumes on. They got the mask on. They're like covered up. And you know what the organization stands for, and what, you know, yeah, basically what they have done. And it's all based on hate. But what came to my mind was that those are just costumes, and we just saw the costumes, having them out there meeting with the costumes on. But said to myself, you know, when they go home, when they leave the meeting, they're going to take the costumes off. And the costumes, they can take the costumes off, but the hate is still there. The hate doesn't come with the costume. The hate is there. The costume just symbolizes the hate. So they're gonna go home and take those costumes off, but just because they take the costumes off doesn't mean they take that hate out of their hearts. So whether they wear the costume or not, the hate, those ideas that they have are in them, are with them. They don't need a costume for that. And I immediately went to, so it wasn't as a big a thing for me, like, oh wow, I see them in their costumes. I just thought to myself, and these are the librarians, the police officers, the teachers, could be the judge. This is the store clerk, the business owner. And it's something that I think a lot of people wouldn't think about. I saw the meeting, but it's not something you think about every day when you're going about things, whether you're working for people or doing things, interacting with them, that those people that were out there were a part of that city, part of that society. They had positions, they had jobs, they had influence, they had say, they had decision making powers, you know. And so, aside from just seeing the costume, just realizing it's the hate that's in the heart. And so, if that's the police officer in the meeting with the costume on who takes it off, but the hate is still there, is he acting out, or is that hate influencing how he's treating his Black or African American neighbor or citizen, or the store clerk? Is it influencing, or is he acting out that hate against his Black or African American employee? The teacher, is it influencing how she treats her Black and African American students? That's where I went for my thoughts about it. So it wasn't so much as, oh wow, like, the costumes. I just realized, which I knew before, because again, hate, racism, hate based on, color, okay, racism, discrimination, prejudice, again, are synonymous with the Deep South. And again, I've heard, I've seen, I've experienced things before then, but to actually see that, because again, you may think because you just see it in the movies, you hear about it, you read about it, that it's not there because you don't see it anymore, but it's there and it's alive. And one of the reasons why I wanted to share this particular story now was because of the events that, like I mentioned before, that have happened recently and the events that have happened recently are not new. They're not new. When we see the killings, the murders of Black and African American men and women and children by whether it's police or citizens, when they're unarmed, and I mean, I know we stress the part about being unarmed, but in the USA, one of the things that one particular group doesn't want to let go of is their right to carry weapons. So why is it that we have to say stress that they're unarmed when legally people can have weapons or firearms legally? So why does it have to be stressed in the case of, Black or African Americans? It's like, oh, they had a gun, then that's the right for them to do it. No, because you wouldn't say that or do that if it was someone white and be like, oh no, well, they had a gun. Okay, because it's one of the rights that people have to do it when it's legal, as long as they have gotten it, the legal way. And so I wanted to share this particular story, not to scare anybody, not to be like, oh no, like the KKK is like, still around, because it doesn't have to do with necessarily the group or the costume that they're wearing. It's the hate that they have in them. So they don't even need a costume for that. It's in them, whether they are part of there are people who are not a part of the KKK who have that same hate, within them towards Black or African American people and others too. Like I said, that particular group, they don't really like nobody who's not like them, who's not white or Caucasian. Everybody is beneath them. They are superior in their eyes and in their ideals, what they set up as to how supreme ones are in society. Um, but yes, the fact was, this was in university, in undergrad, when I'm seeing this for myself, and there are other people who may have never seen anything like this. And just to let you guys know, after we left that scene from there, we just went. I don't even know if we actually ever got around to going to the bank after that happened. But I do remember we went to his job, and at his job, like the people that he worked with, the manager, and everybody, they were like around and they were talking about. So they knew about the meeting as well, and they were like, we know, we wish they'll just go somewhere. They were like, they didn't want any, parts of it. And this was like, white, Black, Hispanic, people who were there, who were all saying this, so, and it wasn't like something that, like pretty much after that we went back to school. But one of the other things I thought about as we were leaving, and remember seeing the sign for the town, I was like, Clanton, because it is, Clanton, Alabama, but it's spelled with a C. Clanton. But I was thinking to myself, I wonder if they really mean K and they just put the C in place of the K, because KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, Clanton, Clanton, and I was wondering if the city was named after the Klan. That's what I was just wondering, as we were leaving. But again, it's something that I want people to know is nothing new. Even though I heard about it, saw it, read about it, learned about up until then, I had never ever actually seen any people a part of the Klan identify as being so. Now there are people around who are part of it. It's very evident because the organization is still around, but never saw any identify themselves as such. And that day, what they were doing by having that meeting in their costumes is they were identifying themselves as such. So in the costumes. Now, I don't know if they do this like publicly, like out loud without the costumes, letting people know they're part of the KKK. But yeah, that was my first time seeing it then. But to know it wasn't something that just happened that day. They all didn't just join the KKK that day. They had This is something that has been going on for years, and again, it's starting with the hatred in people's heart, no matter what the group is that they are a part of. And that particular day didn't mean after they had the meeting again, like when they take the costumes off, the hate doesn't come off with the costume. Okay. So again, the things that they do when I mention it, and I thought to myself, this is a teacher, the librarian, the police officer, whoever is dealing with people, how are their ideas of how they feel and that hatred influencing how they are interacting with the others in their community and the things that they are doing. And it's something that I think even not just the newer parts of Generation Z, but everybody in our society. Sometimes because we don't see something is not right before us all the time, we have a tendency to forget about it, and maybe not think that it's there. It's not like a part of us unless it's just brought before us. But to let people know that these things that we're seeing, these events that we're seeing of recent, it's not that they haven't been going on. It's not that even maybe the day before, the same day, others have been abused by police officers or killed. We're seeing George Floyd. We're seeing Breonna Taylor. We're seeing Eric Garner. We're seeing Ahmaud Arbery. We're seeing Sandra Bland. We're seeing Trayvon Martin. We're seeing Freddie Gray. We're seeing. And also within that, we can also see ourselves and the experiences that we've had or others that we know. For those of us who have experienced racism. And again, it's not just the USA. Believe me, it's not just the USA that has this issue. Um, but for you to know, just because we don't see it, because we're seeing, but just because we don't see it, because it's not out there, because it's not right in front of our faces, does not negate the fact that it is going on. So for us to be cognizant of that, and a lot of times, and it's not that it's necessarily happening more, because some people may think because you see it, oh, it's happening more, or it's like something new, or it's just coming back or anything. No, that does not mean that. Before I saw them at their meeting, guess what? They probably have been members for years. So that means that, oh no, it's on the rise now. Because in order for them to be members that day, that meant for all those years before, they had to have the organization has still been going on. But I didn't see that. So when it comes to the things that we are seeing today, we're hearing about it because we're getting it. They're putting things on the news and certain things that they're selecting, but there are lots more that are going on that we do not see. Lots more, and even more so now that we have social media, where just ordinary citizens, just like me, just like you, are able to capture things in video, or pictures like this. We're seeing it more. We're seeing it more. It doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden it's just started happening, but because it's being put out there more. Just think about all the years where we didn't have those cameras and the internet and social media, those things, and even before TV, how it was going on. Because believe me, it wasn't just not happening because we didn't see it. So to know that these are just a few of the victims that we are learning about, that we are seeing, but there's so many more that we're not seeing, that are not being put in front of us. and for us to understand, because a lot of people may see and say, well, oh, that's one, that's two, that's here. No, there are many that are there. There's much of this is going on, and going back to, again, these type of organizations, how people feel, it all has to do with hatred. If you can understand, like I told you, just because they take the costumes off doesn't mean that the hate comes off with the costume. Those are the teachers, the judges, police officers, the doctors, okay? Those are the people, that are within our society with this hate in them, and it may influence what they do, and they may act it out. Some, again, covertly, which means hidden, and the others overtly. They put it on out there. This is what I'm doing. And so I hope that maybe this will help someone who may not understand, because there are people who've never experienced this. Um, what it is. And I can say that even within the USA, even though there's TV and things like that, even as far as like when I was in graduate school, the majority of my classmates who were Caucasian, Caucasian American, but there were six of us who were Black or African American, and then a couple others from other countries. Pretty much we knew, six of us knew, but the rest of everybody else, except for like maybe three or four people, I know at least like three that didn't for real, that didn't think that racism was over. All the stuff we like the KKK and all this other stuff was a thing of the past. No, they knew it was real, but everybody else was kind of like, oh, this doesn't happen. We don't think, anything like this. And sometimes it takes people to share certain experiences. And again, like with this experience that I had, it wasn't something that I always like just blasted and put out there. There's certain things that, yeah, I remember and experience things, and um, it some things make me think, uh, but it's not like, oh, woe is me or anything like that. But in times when certain situations or things come up, some things may come back to my mind, and then I think, oh, this might be a good moment to share this, or maybe I should share this. And so that was one of those times where everything that's going on, that I felt like maybe I should share this particular experience that I had. And the same thing when I was in graduate school for my classmates who felt like, it was all over with. There was equality for everybody. If a Black man goes in for a job at the same time with a white man for a certain position, that they'll both be looked at equally. And that just depends on the people who you are, who you're working with, who you come in contact with, which I think everything kind of depends on that, the people who you come in contact with at any given moment of time. There's no way that I would say that all white people are part of the KKK, or all white people feel hate or against, Black or African. No way that I would say, or all are racist or prejudiced or discriminatory. No way I would say that, because it all depends on the person, the people individually. And nobody makes you hate. You make a choice. Whoever it is, whatever they're hating for, is always a choice. People can introduce you to it. Experiences or things can happen to you that cause you to hate. But even when the experiences of things happen, we always choose what we feel, because yeah, we choose. So the hate is a choice. Even if someone taught you, even if your parents teach you this or instill it in you, it's still a choice that you make to do so. Okay. um but but yeah, so my classmates who felt like most of them were like, no, it's not existing. And again, even some of the ones who were from the other countries, they felt like, oh, America was great. This could not be here in America or whatever. And so seeing my other classmates, my other five classmates who were like me, a couple of them had tried to share things and I seen them, like shut down and, because it's and one of them, she felt like she just wasn't going to say anything else because she felt they already had deemed her as the angry black woman, you know. And that's really, really sad just because she states her opinion and how she feels, that she will be seen or termed, oh, that's just her, and, whatever. So one day I decided another experience, not this one, but another one from when I was younger came to my mind, and I decided to share that particular day. And you know what? They listened in silence. And again, I don't just share stuff just to be shared all the time, and I don't always like blah 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 all the time. So I think that actually for me to speak and for them to hear me to speak to share that particular experience, that's what made them want to listen because they're like, wait a minute. And so as they listened up until then, the majority of them who were saying, no, 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 it can't be possible, after they heard the particular story that I shared, then it made them think. Some of them began to think, well, maybe could be possible that these things exist. So that was one of the reasons why I want to share this particular story, to let people know that these things exist. There are people who have hate in their heart. This organization, if you go back and for those of you who are not from the USA who don't know about it, I would, invite you to research, to look into what is the KKK and what has been their role in the USA. What are things that they have done and the history of it. And remember, that's history, but they're still here today, as evident from my experience of seeing them in their costume. But they're not walking around all day in their costume. They're walking around in their body, their flesh. That's what they're walking around in now. Their other costume might be their police uniform or their scrubs, or the robe for the preacher, or the janitor's uniform. That's the costume they're wearing like every day. That's who they are. But that hate is in them. Okay. And so for you guys to understand how that can influence how people act and how they treat others, when you're looking at these things and you're like, well, trying to find, well, they must have done something, or it doesn't have to be that someone has done something. If someone has that hatred in their heart, a strong hatred for people who are not like them, or a particular group of people, as what this KKK stands for. And not to say that, again, not everybody who's doing vile things, are necessarily part of the KKK. It all has to do with hate and some other issues that may be going on. But no, the person doesn't have to have done anything to them or for them to warrant that treatment or the influence of the behavior of the person who's acting out on them because of the hate that they have. So that was my purpose, to make people think. And it's not that just because you're seeing the events that are happening, just like I just saw them in their garb and realized, oh, the KKK is, there are people still in that. It's still an organization. Oh my goodness. It's not just from the books. It's not just from the TV. People are still wearing this. People are still a part of the organization. They have this hate. Is not just because we're seeing it, even with these events, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all the names that I named before. It's just because we are seeing it That's what they're putting in front of us. But there's so many more that we don't see. And it's been going on year after year, day after day, but we don't see it because it's not put in front of us like the ones that are there for us. So for us to remember, just because we don't see it doesn't mean that it's going on. And also, it doesn't mean that it's happening more because we are seeing it. It's just that we are seeing it through technology, the technology we have available to us that is putting things out there to us in more abundance. And people are actually, just regular people are able to put information out there, not just certain ones like certain organizations or the media, the ones who control those things. So yeah, it's just something to make people think. And if there are people who can't understand, they're like, well, I don't know, like, why are people so upset or whatever? Maybe you can share this video with them. Maybe that is not a part of like their upbringing or anything they've had to experience. And again, people from other country, like I mentioned, the group in my graduate school class, you know, the majority didn't think till I shared that story, and they were like, maybe, possibly. But just because of their upbringing and the things that went on in their lives, they didn't see it. So that's how they were able to feel like or say that it wasn't happening because they didn't see it. So that's just what I wanted to like share with this stories I haven't shared yet. So it's out there for, more people to hear. A few people have heard about it over the years, and there are even some people who know me who've never heard this story before because yeah, it's a part of me, but it's not me. It's a part of my experience and my memory, still in my memory, what I remember, but it's not me. And it didn't um, change me in like a negative way, but it made me aware and it made me think and think even more deeply about such things. It's not just the costume or the symbolism, but people have the hatred in their heart and it's the people around. So then you kind of get to see how um, institutionalized or systemic racism can come about when it's in you and the people are working parts of society in positions of power, and it doesn't necessarily be positions of power over someone, but they're just a part of it. And so you can see how these things can come about, where you have entire systems set up or things that are put in place, constructs and things that are negative for certain groups. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much. I want the story to go like too long, but again, is something for I think everyone to be aware of. And Sister Cheryl, thank you. Seeing what you have here. Let me see if I can share your comment there. Hiding in plain sight. At least they used to. Now they feel free to say it. Yeah, and I think um, it's not even just now, because again, like experiences, like over time, there are people who've always felt free to like say things. At least I know, like in my experience from growing up in the South. Again, people do things covertly, and then some do things overtly. But I will say, like, yeah, I just saw this, and this was like years ago, like in undergrad, like when this happened. And again, it wasn't something that just happened. Those people are always like that. And again, they either did it covertly or they did it overtly. I know that growing up in my city, there was a lynching. I was like really young, The guy, I think his name was Michael Dunnell or Michael Dunnell, but it happened not too far from where we live. It's a modern day lynching. Um, and growing up, there were instances where you would hear the N word and things like that. So it's not something again that's just happening like now, and it's not more. It's just that again we're seeing it more because of I think like technology that's putting things out there. But yeah, some people have always been like that, and it just again kind of depends on the people that you are coming in contact with. I think with anything, whether that is in our cities or like abroad, because there are people who have totally like opposite experiences. Um, Even again, there's racism that is abroad, and a lot of it, you know what? To be honest, some things are influenced by the U.S. because a lot of people look up to the USA. And again, it's again not just from today, because again, these things have happened like over the years. But people form opinions and people feel certain ways, and they get this like from sometimes from movies or things that they see, what they're shown. Because again, media has a big part to play in things. I mean, especially how we are portrayed, in the outside world. I mean, outside of the USA. If when you go, if you notice certain things, like I've paid attention to media, and in certain places where I've been, I don't watch TV that much, but when I would, like I remember when I went to Korea the first time, and I watched a couple of times. The media I saw of us was like usually always like negative. Um, they didn't show us as multidimensional people. It was always like the negative side. So that's what people are gonna get, like, oh, the black people are like this. While, in other media, like of the others, they get like how multidimensional. They get the negative and they get the positive, and everything. So media has like a big influence on the way people think. And in other places outside of the USA, they don't have like necessarily like laws against racism and discrimination. There are places where they'll put like outright on their job advertisements for certain jobs, like we want white, blonde hair, blue eyes, or they'll tell you when they contact you, oh, but we're not hiring black, so it's not just the USA, but it's like a problem. I think like a heart problem that people have. And again, it's not just black people, because when you hear um, other people, like I remember a roommate of mine, not black, but where she was from, there are people who are very, very, very tan or dark, and then people that are lighter. And within her family, because she was darker, um, yeah, we were not too much different in our skin color. She was like from another country. Actually, I think I want to say Jordan, but she said that she was considered the black sheep of her family, all based on her skin color. So this is like something that is almost like a global issue, but again, it's not everybody, and it's not just the USA, but yeah, it's something for people to think about. There's so many other like things that I could share, and I just want to share this particular story today. But there's so many other things that I've learned, and from other people's experiences from both sides. Whether in the USA and in other countries, from both sides of this. And believe me, it's not just the USA that has the experience of the police brutality, and particularly when it comes to like racism. There are other places that have it aside from racism, but I know of places where they have it. Particularly, it is a part of influence. The police brutality is influenced by race or racism, ethnicism. I don't know if I just made that word up or not, but yes, thank you so much, you guys, for joining me, and feel free to like jot your questions or comments down if you have those like during the replay. And again, I hope that this has been able to help someone. And I'm going to share my contact information with you, just in case you want to reach out to me. Gonna put that up there for you guys. Yeah, but also if you're not from the USA or if you're in the USA, share with me. You can put in the comments or contact me later about maybe your experience with racism, prejudice, or discrimination, or if you have like certain questions, like you just don't you just aren't able to understand, or you uh, don't know why certain things are happening. So there's my contact information at the bottom. You can reach out to me on my website, taiwandabason.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Taiwanda Bason. You can find me on other platforms too. Just put in Taiwanda Bason. Okay, and that's how you can find me. But again, this is my first time doing stories I haven't shared yet live, and maybe I'll do some others. The others are recorded, and you can probably check those out on YouTube as well as some of the past ones. But yeah, I hope this was beneficial to someone. And again, don't be scared. Don't, just because you heard about this and this group, don't be scared, okay? Because I'm not. But it's good to be aware and to know about certain things. And again, I thank you guys for joining me. Again, this is Taiwanda Bason, your border breaking specialist of TaiwandaBason.com. And thank you for joining me for stories I haven't shared yet. And I hope that you enjoy your day wherever you are in the world. And hey, you guys, if you get a chance, you notice I mentioned Sister Sherry, her comment. Check out Sherry's World. She helps with traveling. So she's a part of a travel agency or travel group, and she can help you out. So check her out. You can see her in the comment section because she left a few comments there. But anyway, you guys enjoy wherever you are, day or night in the world. Bye bye.